In just a few minutes.
How's everybody doing out there?
Alive, does that count for something?
That certainly does. Makes more things possible when we're alive. All right, we got questions already too. I can address them now since we're hanging out. Yeah, we've actually been looking into the theater, partnering with theaters in different ways or venues. A little early for that, but we have been looking for venues, particularly for certain programming that we're developing, where we could bring in a film crew, and make it a little more high end with certain performances. But on the whole, we're going to kind of stick more to the intimate format, just because that's obviously what Groupmuse is about. But if we can find a space that, has that feeling, then certainly a potential as the social distancing thing evolves. I think that'll definitely become something.
We are now at the bottom of the hour, and in the spirit of the questions being asked, we want you to ask questions throughout in the chat, and then we will address all of them after the lesson is commenced. And you can find that, if you're not familiar with Zoom yet, it's just in the middle of the screen. And then we could have a more lively discussion after the lesson. This lesson will be about being an MC and what that role does and what that fulfills. And basically what the MC does is a director for the entire event, the beginning, the middle, and the end. They are passing the mic around. They're muting people and unmuting people as they need to be. And they're pretty much the glue that makes the whole event happen. There must be an MC for each event, and a musician can MC themselves, or they can appoint an MC for the event. But an MC is required for each event. It's super important. And with that in mind, the MC must familiarize themselves with the online MC training checklist, which we'll provide in the chat and in the YouTube description below. And we'll move into the content of the event, which Christos will get into about what the MC will do at each part of the evening. So do you want? You're muted right now.
There we go. Okay. So yeah, I think I lost you for a second, Scott, but yeah, the overview of basically what we want to do. Last week, for those who attended last week, we kind of got more into the technical aspects of streaming, of what it involves for a musician to stream, on YouTube. But we wanted to kind of back up a little further and give you all a perspective of, what the complete streaming experience is that we've sort of developed out of trial and error for the past couple months of doing this, in a way that we feel combines, a quality streaming performance as far as using YouTube for that, but also keeping the community aspect, which we're using Zoom for, where we have the opportunity to share and see each other and ask questions and interact much more dynamically than we can with a one-way stream with just like a YouTube chat on the side. So in order to bring those together, because there isn't, I might have repeating this from last time, but there isn't a technology that can provide both of those in a seamless way. We are in the process, if everything goes well, of developing a platform that can be more integrated than what we're using right now. But in the meantime, I'm just going to walk you through what the format is that we're using right now. It's not ideal, it's not permanent, but it's the most effective way, imperfections and all, that we've found so far to provide both that, like I said, those two elements of the a well, a good enough definition of audio and video, one-way streaming performance, as well as the community interaction. So basically, every concert follows this format, the same format. There's three parts to every Groupmuse. There's the pre-concert hangout, which happens here in Zoom. So when when you create an event on your event page, when a user logs into that page, signs onto that page, they'll see join the pre-concert, gathering. That, if you click on that, it opens up a Zoom page. That's where the pre-concert hangout happens, very much like what we're doing right now, right? I mean, most people are familiar with Zoom at this point, but that's where basically it's like imagining that that's the audience just gathering and talking and hanging out before the performance. And then the second component is the performance itself, which is that one-way stream that happens on YouTube with the musicians performing, 2 sets of 20 to 25 minutes of music. And then the third part is the post-concert Q&A, where we go back to Zoom. And then the musicians join and we have an engaging discussion with them. So those are the three basic segments, right? The pre-concert hang in Zoom, the performance in YouTube, the post-concert hang in Zoom. And within that, there are basically 2 roles with sometimes an additional third role, but the 2 roles are the musician who's performing and then the MC who's moderating the Zoom, right? And for any musician I've already talked to, I've kind of explained that, but we're going to flesh that out a bit today with this, and we're also going to give you some materials and resources to further understand that. So basically, the performer is obviously the featured musician who's streaming on YouTube. The first webinar we did last week that's available on the YouTube channel now goes a lot into that, as well as provides some information on the tutorial video, the musician tech guide, and all of that. The second role, like I said, the MC is in charge of moderating Zoom. And then the third role, which is an optional role that we're developing, is called the social host, who we're working with certain hosts who want to invite people to a Groupmuse, and we're going to be matching them with the events that you create. So you're obviously sharing with your network, but at the same time, you might have a social host who wants to come and join your Groupmuse and bring their audience and also contribute a little bit to the socializing portion of the pre and post concert Zoom Hangouts. Next week, we're going to go more into that component. And we're going to have Bex, who's handling a lot of that training, talk more about social hosts. So performer, MC, and optional social hosts. Like I said, today we're going to be going more into MC, but, and I'm going to try to do this in not too long-winded a fashion, but I want to just try to walk everybody through the format of how those 3 phases go. So basically, and if anyone is like completely lost at any point, just like, send a, oh, okay, approve the Google Doc. Yeah, I'll get to that, thanks. Send a comment if you, need me to take a pause or anything, or if you have a question that's relevant to exactly what I'm saying, I can always pause and address it then. So basically, before the pre-concert hangout, you, the musician, as well as the MC, and if there's a social host, will all gather about 10 minutes before, 10 to 15 minutes before the initial pre-concert hangout. So you're having like a preliminary check-in where you're just talking to each other. You're going, oh yeah, okay, I'm all squared away with YouTube. I'm ready to go there. You're logged into, you all meet in Zoom, so you're already there. At that point, make sure that the MC is squared away with their Zoom responsibilities and is clear about that. And one thing that I've been doing that I think we're going to make kind of mandatory is that the Zoom MC and the musician have each other's number. So that way, if anything is going on during the performance that's glitchy, they can communicate directly, as well as the MC can give the green light to the musician that they're ready to start the YouTube live stream. So I think the easiest way to do that, just give them a text, say, okay, I'm ready to go. And then the musician confirms, okay, starting streaming now. And then the event starts. So you get all that clarified in the preliminary hangout. And then the musician can hang out for the pre-concert chat if they want, or they can just disappear into their virtual green room. But at that time, it's really the MC's job. That's where they're on. So before that, people might be rolling in, but they're all put in the waiting room in Zoom. We've set it up automatically, so that's how it starts. And so say the concert starts at 8, or the event starts at 8 o'clock, you admit everybody from the wait room. They all start pouring into Zoom. They're all muted. They have the option to unmute to say hello, but we mute everyone as they roll in. So the MC is watching that. They're watching everybody flow in. They're making sure people are muted. Sometimes someone might unmute themselves and you get some awkward, weird noise. So their job is to just be on top of that and also greet everyone, say hello, welcome, kind of just explain to them that they're the MC and they'll be hosting the evening. And then you can give people some basic lay of the land of how to use Zoom, how to mic and unmic yourself, how to toggle between the views of Zoom. We're going to be kind of creating a little tutorial guide for that so that people who are emceeing can get familiar with that. And then the MC can also just encourage people to say hi, where they're beaming in from, and maybe offer them an icebreaker of something they want to share that was inspiring to them or what they're looking forward to in the program, whatever, just to get people maybe socializing a bit if they want. So that's the pre-concert hangout. It's just an opportunity to let people roll in, connect with each other, get prompted and ready for the performance. And then after that goes on for 10 to 15 minutes, the MC feels like, okay, I think we're pretty much ready to go, communicates with the musician, and then mutes everybody with the option not to unmute and says, okay, we're gonna now go over to YouTube to watch the stream. A lot of people end up staying on Zoom. They don't have to, but as an MC, at that point, you're just on call to address any issues. Maybe somebody doesn't know how to get to YouTube, which often happens, especially with older, if you're the older generation, sometimes it's a little more daunting. So yeah, I mean, of any generation really. But anyway, point is you're there to help out with that side of things. Then of course the musician starts streaming. So then now we're into the concert portion of it. That's, as we went over last week, it's usual kind of Groupmuse format, 2 minutes of 2 sets of 20, 25 minutes worth of music, with a break in between. Again, if there's any issues, MC can communicate that through a text. And after that, performance is done. The MC unmutes themselves, says, all right, welcome back everybody to Zoom. The musician's gonna be joining us in a second. And when they roll in, we're gonna unmute everyone to give a big, applause. That's how the post-concert hang starts. And then everyone's muted again. They can ask questions through chat or unmute themselves and ask a question. And again, the MC just kind of moderates that process. Now, if a social host is present, they'll also be there to kind of help with that and participate as much as they want. But that will go on until it reaches a kind of natural conclusion, maybe 30 minutes or so. And then once if the social host is still there, some people can hang out with them as well, but it just sort of dies down from there. So that's basically the big overview of what's going on with every concert. And so obviously the two important roles here are the musician performing and then the MC, who has a decent amount of responsibilities there, which is why we really want to make that clear when we're right. And also, of course, there's throughout there with the MC, the other responsibilities are that they are not only dropping a link to the YouTube performance, but every now and then dropping a link that is giving an ask to contribute to the performance, to the musicians. And so they're putting a little link that leads to the Groupmuse pay page. And at the end of everything, we'll also be inviting people who want to play that social host role, just to give an ask about that, to say if you're interested in playing the social host role for a Groupmuse, bringing your friends in the future, you can contact so-and-so at this email. So yeah, so those are basically the responsibilities and the roles throughout the Groupmuse experience. as I said, we're focusing on the MC aspect today. So I'm happy to address later any questions about that entire process. I know it's a lot of information, but we do have a document that covers basically everything I just said. And within that, we're going to have little sub-tutorials for the MC and musician roles that everyone can continue to get familiar with. And obviously, the more you do these concerts, the more straightforward and kind of clear and less kind of maybe daunting a lot of this information will become. As far as recommendations for making the money pitch, I mean, I think it's up to the MC to kind of feel that out, but you can. I often just say it in a more of an invitational way of, you know, so if you'd like to contribute, we ask a minimum of $10. It goes to the musicians. And then you just send the information, you just drop the link. But that's why we're not having the musicians do that. We're having the MC do that, or potentially the social host, but mostly the MC, because it kind of makes it less awkward than a musician, asking themselves. And yeah, some other people are adding some other elements of speak from the heart. Yeah, be genuine about it. Don't feel like you have to give a sales pitch. Just be honest. That this is supporting the beautiful experience that we're all sharing, and that's what we're here for. And it's a way to show gratitude and appreciation and support. Sorry.
Before we get into the broader Q&A section, I want to emphasize that in addition to the more formalized parts of how Groupmuse works, the time links being shared, there are a lot of informal things and more implicit things that one must sort of intuit, whether it's inviting folks to contribute to a conversation, if there's a hesitation to share or to speak, to sort of break that initial silence, the sort of uncomfortability of going into a chat room basically with maybe some people you know, but most likely people you don't know, and to find a way to cultivate a spirit of congeniality and to take that thread and to bring it throughout, and to know that if somebody's having a hard time getting on the internet, or some aunt is trying to call on and listen while they're driving, those things will inevitably occur. And the role of the MC is to sort of catch those with a good and happy spirit, and to do the best they can with the time that they have, knowing that, if you have 60 people tuning into an event, there might be someone you can't help use the internet for the first time in the way that you would like to. But the hope for the role is to keep the good vibe rolling, so to speak, before, during, and after. And that involves, in addition to all the things that Chris was mentioned, of having just a lively chat presence on YouTube, saying bravo, or that what a beautiful piano on the YouTube chat, and providing links and again for folks who missed the link for the first time, how you need to emphasize that you need to copy and paste what you're seeing, what you want them to see, because the chat sort of brings the link that you want people to see up as people ask questions. And then something that invariably happens is that folks aren't thrilled with the way a laptop sounds. And so what you need to ask folks to do is, for the best listening experience, is to simply plug in your headphones or to use external speakers to have the best listening experience. So we can hear the Stradivarius or whatever wonderful instrument you've spent your life playing. So in addition to those formal things, you'll notice these sort of starts and stops, these gaps in between, that the MC is really a vital piece in, that we've noticed in places where the MC isn't making those places, that there are often attendees that don't know where to go. They're not sure what to say or who to interject. And in parts of the end, when folks are sharing, there are ways to give formed questions, so that questions that are positive in nature and can allow for exchange to happen, and not someone to sort of get too large in a conversation and sort of monopolize the chat. So we invite these things as formal, and then we know that as you go along, you'll see more of the subtleties about what happens in the emceeing experience. We're just at the 20-minute marker now, so we want to give you and reward you the rest of the time for the Q&A, but I would like to open it up really fast to the other staff members, Kyle and Bex, if there's something we want to bring in and add on to the unit.
Hey, my name is Kyle. I don't think I have anything particular to add. I think you guys did a great job, and I just want to, I guess, note that this is something that is certainly actively evolving, and this, you know, as updates happen, we'll try to be doing a really good job communicating with everyone around how we're seeing these roles evolve. We've kind of like just recently settled on this being the roles, and we are very open to feedback about how these roles feel, and our kind of our thought around the Emcee role is that they're kind of like a stopgap, make sure like they're the glue that kind of like can plug the random little holes that might pop out throughout the streaming experience, to just kind of, oh shoot, this person can't figure out how to mute themselves and they're on, you know, they've got a conversation going on, so I'm just going to do that. Like there's just a lot of little things, and we've just found that that Emcee role, who's just holding that space with the technology a little bit, they're a little confident, they've checked out the tutorials, they're, you know, they're just familiar, and they don't have the stress of being the performer, to just smooth everything out is an essential role right now, and we are very much like evolving what that actually looks like. So we want to hear back from people, and we'll obviously be attending events and checking in, but we just yeah, we're thankful for your, like, you know, patience and flexibility as we figure out what this all looks like. But for now, we're thinking that the MC is like a really crucial role, just to make sure that there's someone who's not a performer who can make sure that if there's a random little glitch, that it doesn't mean that 10 people can't see the performance. And so we've decided that's really important. Even though it's not highly technical, it is very important. So that's been our experience so far, and we'll be in communication as we move forward.
Yeah, and I feel like every single one of these roles is all playing an important part, but they're all part of a team that's working together to craft what is an online Groupmuse, what does an online Groupmuse feel like, and that chance to all meet up ahead of time in that like 15-minute pre-concert window is the perfect opportunity to like go over that run of show and say, okay, well, I'm here and we have a social host and we have an MC and we have a musician, and who's going to take over what, so that everything is kind of flowing from one step to the next throughout the live stream and make it seem effortlessly like flow through the entire process. And when it happens, it's just like such a beautiful moment, and we want that to happen every single time for all of you.
Yeah. I feel like maybe an easy thing to do right now is I just want to kind of fly through a lot of the questions that have been.
Oh, really quick, Christos.
Okay.
And what this means for you in the platform is when you make your event as a musician, is you'll, in the very last portion where you said provide a note to the Groupmuse staff, is you write the name, the email address, and phone number contact of who the MC will be. And if it's yourself, then mark that accordingly. But we just need to know who that is so we can assign that onto the event, so we know who will be there. All right, go for it, Christos.
Okay, I'm just going to go through a lot of these in the chat here, the questions, and then I might actually ask some people, if I'm not clear what they were asking, to just I'll unmute them and ask them to ask me directly. As far as, you know, the MC being at a separate location, I mean, technically the MC could be in your household, but they would be using a separate device. So, you know, they can be, but yes, it'll be somebody who's using a separate device wherever they may be to run Zoom. And yeah, so there's that differentiation. So Yeah, and I'm going to come back to you just to clarify what you mean about the screen. And we might actually be just releasing a recording of a Zoom of one of the group muses so that everyone can just watch, just to see how one unfolds, that we feel like really covers all of these bases as a reference. So if so, we will definitely make that available on the site and direct people to our YouTube channel to watch it. Yeah, that's Ian. That's a good question about should we direct people to watch the stream on YouTube itself or the Groupmuse website? And I mean, I would say that we want to prefer people going to the Groupmuse website, but if people are confused or having technical issues, then we want them to, then we'll just say, just go to the YouTube link, just watch it there. And as we evolve this, like I said, this will become more seamless, and so that question, will not be something you'll have to worry about as much. Let's see, the attendees. So the MC's job in the beginning, as I mentioned in the pre-concert chat hangout, is to give a general overview of the format. So the MCs will not have a knowledge of the format unless they've obviously been to group muses in the past. And we have had a lot of our community tuning in for these. So a lot of them are actually quite familiar with the process at this point, but there's always going to be some people there who are first time and don't know. So it is your job as an MC to make that clear in the beginning. Has anyone got this to work? Yes, Lawrence, we have got it to work. We've done about, I don't know, 60 or 70 of these so far, and on the whole, they do go well, especially when, an experienced MC, someone is there to help move everything along. It sounds a lot more complicated right now because we're literally just describing every single little thing that you encounter through the whole evening. But if you just go through the experience, you're really letting it, you're leading it, but it has its own momentum. You're just sort of keeping it in check. So as far as the MC compensated right now, so we're, part of what we're asking is if a musician has someone in their network that they feel will help them with this. So the short answer to that right now is no, the MC is not compensated. I can let, if anyone else wants to chime in to go more into detail about that on staff.
I can jump in.
Yeah.
Just quickly to say that we definitely have talked about compensating MCs, and generally speaking, it would be awesome for us to be able to pay people to do this. And we are considering we want to roll out a pilot program to try that. The problem is that we're trying to have this be like empowering as many musicians as possible to do this, which means that like baked into that equation is that there's going to be many of these live streams that musicians are putting together that don't have that many people attending them, which is totally fine and great. But if it's a musician and 5 people that they've invited for an event, then like Groupmuse has basically, in our current financial position, we don't have the ability to like guarantee. We do guarantee payment, like a minimum that musicians are earning for every event, which is $50. So if they don't make that much, we'll just cover it. But we don't financially have the ability to like pay every MC at those smaller events. So we want to be doing it, and we're thinking about moving towards it. But for right now, it's like we're hoping musicians are finding someone in their network who's willing to help out. And also, if the musician and that person want to just decide on like, hey, if I make $250 at this live stream, I want to throw you $50 or whatever, like that. We're totally in support of any arrangement where the MC is getting paid for helping out. But Groupmuse, based off of our like $3 per person per attendee fee, right now we can't make the finances work to cover MCs, although that could change in the future.
Yeah. And so I guess I'll just
really quick, Chris, we're close to 150 group muses actually. It's not we've done a lot of them. We've done like 7 nights a week, lots and lots and lots of group muses online. So it's not a question of if it can work. It's just trying to find the right way in which everyone can do it instead of just a few people not having a single night off.
And I can't believe we've already done almost 7. Time flows differently in virtual land. So yeah, the awkward silences is a great question too, because part of this is like it's a virtual medium. It's totally not something that people are really sure what to expect when they sign on for this experience. Some of them want to just be passive. They just want to sit there like they're watching TV, and that's totally fine. And what I find myself doing is when I know that I'm with an audience where a lot of them are of that kind of passive nature, I'll, if it's in the pre-concert where it's just us and the musicians aren't there, I'll just use that time to go back to just covering the overview of the evening, maybe saying a little bit about Groupmuse, or maybe just riffing off of something like I'm having a conversation, even though I might be having it with myself at that moment. But I think it's okay to have some silence. Don't feel like but as long as everyone there is aware that maybe we're just getting ready to get going, and then it's as Scott was saying, it's like such a case by case thing that you just sort of get used to feeling out in this virtual space, and it's not you don't have to worry about being perfect, because there's no perfect outcome, but those are some of the things that I do. Or obviously, if it is in the post concert Q&A, I'll just always go back to the musicians and ask them to share more about their own experience. Kyle, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that in the document that Christos linked to in this Zoom chat, as well as is linked to in the Groupmuse like online MC training checklist that will have all MCs, that document that will link to everything. There is actually a list of like icebreaker conversation starters that we've used, and generally just like asking people to like chime in and say their name, say where they're tuning in from, and then maybe like answer a prompt, like, hey, what's one nice thing that like what's a moment that you want to share from your day-to-day, or some sort of like show and tell. I mean, there's a million ways to like get a conversation rolling, and we actually have like a brainstorm, and we've been thinking about this, and I think after someone does it once or twice, there's like a natural flow that you get into on it. But yeah, silences are fine, and icebreakers can work really well, or just kind of conversational prompts to find something that gets people interested and gets it moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Aaron, when you're asking if people can't chat on Groupmuse, I assume you mean on the Groupmuse website. And if that's not what you mean, feel free to unmute and tell me otherwise. But right now, we don't have a chat feature built in, which is why we use we use Zoom and for the chat, as well as sometimes people when they're watching YouTube, they start to chat on the YouTube and we respond to those. As I said, we're moving towards the vision of a more integrated platform where chatting and all of it will be more integrated with Groupmuse website, but we don't have any details on that yet because we have not yet embarked on that process, but we're going to very soon, and hopefully we'll have updates for you in the coming month and forward about that. With multiple performers, we don't, all of the Groupmuse performances right now are people either living together in quarantine or solo performers. We're not encouraging any people coming out from other locations to play together, even if they're practicing the social distancing requirements. We just decided it's best not to go there right now, just in case anyone takes it the wrong way, or people violate those social distancing principles. I think we had one concert that occurred, but we didn't know it was going to happen, and so that we want to avoid that happening in the future. Go ahead.
There's a question that's like sort of talking about, Aaron followed up about intermission. If you can change there's no intermission to make it simpler or easier, but there's also a question about giving tech support during the intermission, and I think that's an important part. The way staff has historically emceed Groupmuse is that we've let musicians know that we would text them if there's a connection issue after the first piece of music, so that if there's no text, it's like good news. No news is good news. And in the case of you self-hosting, it's equally as important for you to address problems in the case they arise. And so that what that requires for you is for after each piece, for you just to glance up and see that YouTube is still running. And in the case, like, let's say a family friend or if someone you know is in the audience, they can just text you if your internet connection is dropped out. And the intermission is an interesting strategic point for you where you can actually address those things, and you can message someone who's stuck or message someone who got on the wrong web browser or any number of issues. That 5 minutes gives you that grace period to address maybe the 100 people who would love to enjoy your concert, but for whatever reason can't. So yeah, so that's the quick answer to the intermission. It's your program, so you can make just a few minute intermission instead of 20 minutes, but we've seen the intermission used for very good reasons that are ambidextrous.
Yeah, and that intermission is something that is really kind of like a case, like that preliminary gathering between the MC and the musician before the performance is where you can kind of work out, because I mean some people might just let their stream roll during that intermission, and then there's like they might just leave the room for a second and come back, and at that point that's a slightly different setting than if they actually on OBS pause the stream for a second and then restart it. That's something that can be addressed on a case-by-case basis right now, and if anyone has questions about that, I'm happy to talk to them individually, because it's a point that I think we don't want to necessarily get too far into today.
And just respond to Richard's last question before Ian takes off, that our positions, like, you can't violate social distancing. So whatever your municipal ordinance is, we can't keep track of every municipal ordinance. We're just letting you know we don't want you to break the law, so please don't. And that's what we want you to do. So you can list out all the sort of contingencies and excesses, but our disposition is we don't want you to break the law, whatever that is in your case where your land is. So that's the tricky thing about an online platform, is we don't know what it's like there. We just want you to be a good citizen and not break the law. So that's the short of our answer that's trying to wrap around all situations.
Yeah, and yes, Ian, the Zoom is, so the MC, as I said, they basically are just holding down Zoom the whole time. So Zoom is open during the whole performance for people to hang out in or leave and come back. They can leave and come back. It's always the same Zoom link, so everyone can roll in and out. But they will be here. Everyone will be muted. The MC is there and is kind of watching the chat to address any questions or tech issues that might come up during the whole performance.
And the way that's worked for musicians who are self-hosting is they would have their Zoom open up on a tablet. They would have everything running through their computer, but the YouTube stream would be working through an external camera, so it's not utilizing the same camera at once. So there are multiple ways to cut that up if you're on your own, so to speak.
Yeah, and so I can, in these two questions, I can kind of combine as far as who creates the Groupmuse. So the musician will create the Groupmuse, and when they're filling out the information, there's a section for comments where you're mentioning, is there anything that you need to notify the Groupmuse staff about? That's where you add the information of the email, the phone number of the MC. So it's while you're filling out the event form on the Groupmuse site.
I could also can I add one more thing there, which is that as of right now, the performer is, as Christos just said, the one who sets up the event. The performer is also, for now, going to be the person that we are giving the, if they don't already have a Zoom Pro account, we're going to be issuing them a Zoom Pro account that they can use for their Groupmuses. And we're going to be giving that to the performer. And so the performer is kind of responsible for making sure that the YouTube stream is scheduled and that the link for that is loaded into groupmuse.com, which they can edit where they edit the program of the show. And it's also on the performer to schedule the Zoom meeting and take the URL for that and put it into groupmuse.com under the section where you can edit the event details, like where you might put in the address. There's a section at the bottom for where's the Zoom chat. So for now, we're having the performer handle the account and the setup and everything, and they just kind of put a note to us saying who the MC will be, and we'll reach out, make sure that person's been they've gone through the training checklist, and then we'll tag them as the MC on the event, so they're listed and everything. But all the accounts and kind of event management and stuff through groupmuse.com will be the responsibility of the performer. At least that's how we're planning it for now.
Yeah, and there's a couple of questions that are kind of reveal the fact that we are basically have been retrofitting our Groupmuse platform to accommodate this gigantic transition into virtual streaming. So one of the things is the image on the events page. Some people were asking, how do I change that image? And that's something that we've usually done internally and will continue to do internally. If you have an image that you want to change it to, you can send it to us. That might change in the future, probably will change in the future, but right now we have to do that manually because those images were all auto-generated, but there is a way to override that and add an image. And then as far as Leon, I think, had a question about the zip code, and yeah, all of that is not very important, but if it's someone is registering, then they fill with their own zip code. But even when you're creating an event, because they're all virtual, that information is more internal use. It's nothing that affects, the outcome of anything or how anything is displayed.
Yeah, as of right now, if you put in the address for where your event is, quote unquote, we will advertise that event slightly more prominently to people who live near you. But ultimately we're moving towards live stream events kind of don't have a location, and we want it to be just as easy to build a crowd anywhere, to audiences anywhere in the world.
Okay. Did I miss anything? Anna had a question. Maybe we can where are you? Anna, are you there?
Hi. No, I don't think I meant to ask a question.
Oh, okay, no problem. Well, hello anyway. Okay.
Oh, I'm another Anna. Was it?
Oh, that was the other Anna.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hi. I don't exactly remember what my question was worded like.
What does the screen look like for audience members? Are they given a Zoom meeting link and then so you mean the screen like on the events page? I assume that's what you mean. So basically when you go to the Groupmuse events page, say you signed up for the musician's concert and you go to that respective events page, logged in as a reserved user, you will see all the information. There'll basically be a button that says join the the pre-concert chat, and then there'll be the embedded YouTube video with a pay button underneath that, and then below that a join the after concert Q&A. So it's all mapped out there, and they just have to click on each one. So the MC can direct people to that page if they have any questions, or if they feel they need to specifically share the donate. I mean, we do share the donate link, but if someone's asking specifically for one of those links, you can provide it in the chat individually. But on the Groupmuse events page, all of those things are clearly listed. But as you'll notice, people still have you'll never be surprised, or you'll always be surprised, I suppose, of people kind of having a trouble finding their way sometimes. So you will find that you'll have to share those links. As far as other platforms, yeah, it's a slightly different technical question, but as far as working with other platforms so musicians can perform together and all of that, it's something we've been exploring. There's not necessarily an elegant solution for that at this time, but there are certainly workarounds. If you as a performer are collaborating with other musicians and want to experiment with that, you're more than welcome to do it. All you need to do is just be able to patch it into a YouTube stream. So there's tons of things you can do on the back end to experiment with, and as long as you can get them to come through YouTube in a cohesive way, and I'm happy to work with anyone, or if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to spend some time in the kind of music tech side of things, helping people out with that. I'll just put my email here again for anyone who doesn't have it. Just putting it in the chat. Okay, how are we doing? Okay, will there be a place to add a poster or a link to a Facebook event? Yeah, I mean, again, there'll be a lot of things that we'll be developing, streamlining. We're very open to feedback, ideas. At this point, you can technically put any link you want in your event description to go anywhere. There's really no limitations on that. The visual elements are something that we're going to be developing and being able to create. Again, there's a lot of platform development that's going to be happening in the next several months. So a lot of things will change, and your feedback will also influence a lot of those things. But right now, what I just want to really make sure is, I mean, we've covered a lot of information today, and I want to just, if anyone's feeling like, okay, I need more clarification around anything we've already covered, happy to do that right now. I just feel like we have covered a lot of material already. Yep.
One thing you can do currently is you can link your social media account to your Groupmuse account and exhort folks to follow you, and they will be notified on Groupmuse once you create an event. So that's a pretty simple way to boost your signal. And in the email builder, when you host an event, there's an easy way to connect your message to the event on a Facebook message. So you can find them in the email builder on Build Your Crowd when you manage your event.
And really, yeah, we can talk about that. I can kind of see what's going on there, and I'll email you after this, and I can follow up on that question.
Daniel Roest, does he have a question?
Yeah, I got a question. Thanks, Scott. I'm not quite clear on the social distancing guidelines, because the country's opening up and people are starting to go out to businesses and whatnot. Running errands today, pretty much everyone was in masks. But going forward, I have a duet partner, and we'd like to perform again on Groupmuse and live stream. She and I live in adjacent cities. She's healthy, I'm healthy. We're both teachers, we teach from home. We'd come to my house, and she'd definitely not be wearing a mask as she plays the flute, nor would I be as I play the guitar. So just getting clear on the guideline about social distancing and living together. We don't, and we want to perform and not wear masks.
Sure. Thanks for your question, and we understand this is a certain pre-existing condition of all of us. We're in a very unprecedented moment when it comes to music performance. And to answer your question directly, Daniel, is that we don't have a set policy in the sense that we can't make a rule for every municipality. So we just want you to follow the distancing guidelines of your municipality. I'm in Chicago, and we're not allowed to go outside of our houses. We're not supposed to go for a 5K run. In Paris, you can't leave more than 1 kilometer from your house without being arrested. So we understand, we know that Dade County, Miami is going to be very different than Anchorage, Alaska, and what social protocols are made available. So we just want you to follow whatever your municipality's protocol is. And if that allows you to have someone in your home, that is the case. And if your municipality doesn't want you to have people over to your house, then that's what the law is. We want you to follow the law. So
very good, very good. I agree 100%.
Okay, great. Okay, so we understand everything's very different. Where are you tuned in, by the way?
I'm in Folsom, California.
Oh, very well.
Near Sacramento.
Oh, great.
All right. Any other questions that we didn't address that anyone has?
I just want to add one more thought, which is I really appreciate that exchange. And one thing that I might just ask, which is not a policy of ours, but if you're in an area where there's more liberal policies around gatherings than in other areas, then it might be courteous to mention that to guests at Groupmuses who might be tuning in from a place where it's much more restrictive and might be confused or think that this is a bad idea or think it's very irresponsible. The courteous thing to do might just be to say like, hey, to anyone who's curious, here's actually what like the local regulations are, and everyone has different boundaries on that, but like everyone's following their own local rules, and that's just the nature of the fact that this is an online event, is we all live in different areas with different rules. So that would be, I think, just a nice add-on to help make everyone feel comfortable and not make people get freaked out.
Philip, I think you had a question.
I'm just from the performer's perspective and just kind of understanding the listeners, just kind of what they're seeing. So I just kind of wanted to step back a little bit and summarize just as I walk through the timeline. Let's say a concert's at 7 p.m. As musicians, we start interacting with the MC and just kind of troubleshooting at 6:30. Is that right? Or is it 15 minutes before 7?
It's up to you. I mean, I think it's just as much time as you feel like you need, you know, so if you want to, you can do an hour before if you want to reach out to them before.
And then at 7, that's when everybody's let in to the Zoom thing. Okay. And then, so what I'm seeing right now is I'm seeing a little thing on my screen that says live on YouTube. Is that what the listeners are going to see as well? Okay. And they could technically click on that, even though we'd rather them go to the kind of more ease of use Groupmuse page. I don't know what the listeners or the audience is seeing.
Yeah, that's actually a good question and a very different thing. Right now, what you see as live on YouTube is the fact that this session is being broadcast also on YouTube. So we're here on Zoom. Also, you can pull this up on YouTube, and we're doing that primarily so that we can take people, musicians and MCs and people in the future, and we can have them just watch this conversation to get onboarded. But that's not what happens at a regular Groupmuse. The Zoom is not being projected on YouTube, so that button would not be there. You would not see live on YouTube. It would be just in a Zoom, and then when we all switch to YouTube, you have to like click a link to open up a separate YouTube stream that the musician has set up. Good.
So they'd go to the Groupmuse page that organizes that concert, and there would be a link there to just click on Groupmuse, and it would,
you got it. Yep. And exactly. And the other really common use case is that they got an email from us with the link to the YouTube.
So there's
a lot of people. There's a lot of portals. A lot of people pull it up right from that email. 1 hour before every show, we send an email that has all the links: the Zoom link, the YouTube link, the payment link. Here's the Zoom link again. So if people are coming from there, they can just go back to that email. But if they're on the groupmuse.com webpage, it's obviously there as well.
Okay. And then if something does kind of go squirrely on the performer's side, would we go to the event page that we originally used to submit the event? And that's where we would put in the new YouTube link if, God forbid, we need a new YouTube link? Is that how that's going to work? Because just kind of worst case scenario kind of thing. Where would we actually go to help with that?
Where you enter the Kyle, you want to address that?
Yeah, hopefully that never happens. That hasn't happened for us yet. We're really like that link for the YouTube stream is like put into the website days ahead of time. And emailed out to everyone. And if you try to change that last minute, people are going to get lost and they're going to go to the wrong place. So so that's really should be avoided at all costs. In the worst case scenario, the Zoom chat feature is where you can kind of like hit people up with a last minute thing, you know, or maybe some other link you want to share. But like if everyone's in the Zoom together, you paste it in the Zoom chat, and that they'll all have that live access to it there.
And actually, Kyle, sorry to make this, if this is a frustrating or anxious ridden thing, things have happened like that actually, where folks have pasted once you create a live stream, there is a back end server link, and folks have mistakenly put that in the YouTube page, and it wasn't recognized until a few moments before the concert began. And so it's a really important distinction, and they look very similar, but the effect is vastly different. And you could tell once you go into your event page with however many RSVPs in a few days time, if you go on it, it doesn't show some picture about like, this is a live stream that's going to happen in so many days. You'll instead have an error page. If you try to hit play, it'll say 404 error, server cannot be reached. That means you put in the wrong YouTube link. And we've had folks a few minutes before the concert began recognize they did that, and they had to go back into the YouTube studio. Another variation of how things have gone wrong is that folks have started their live stream and ended their YouTube live stream. So what you see on the event page is that folks had a minute long sound check essentially for their YouTube live stream, and that we've had to, in the minutes prior to, when I say minutes, I mean 2 minutes prior to the concert, everyone coming in from the waiting room, we had to make a new live stream for them. Thankfully, it wasn't a very big one. There weren't many emails sent out, but these things have happened, and they will happen without proper care.
Yeah.
And we'll obviously be making. I'm going to be making another tutorial that will make that even clearer as far as where to find that link, how to paste it. But basically, whenever you start a YouTube stream, when you go live on YouTube, if you stop it, you can never restart it. You can start and restart OBS as many times as you want, but if you start that YouTube stream and then you stop it, you will have to create a new YouTube stream. And so, that's like the number one thing you want to try to avoid. But Marie, the question about speaking during the performance, definitely we encourage musicians to talk and share their experience and connect, offer that up as a form of the audience being able to connect with you, more so really than even in a normal group music, in the sense of, because the audience can't provide that during the performance, so you want to just keep revisiting that as a way for you to storytell a bit too. People really appreciate that, and it gives just much more of a rich context for the after concert Q&A, where those are actually you're planting little seeds that people want to follow up on during the performance. And just overall, this whole thing, as I'm assuming everyone is getting a sense of, this is all a work in progress. I mean, we are basically trying to create something that doesn't exist right now, as far as combining these platforms together to share this communal experience of music online. Like we're using, like I said in the beginning, we're using Zoom and YouTube because it's the best we can come up with right now based on the resources we have, and we're looking to evolve beyond that as an organization by creating our own platform. But if this seems daunting or there's a lot of questions, like, we're definitely here to help you smooth all that out, with the understanding that we're kind of creating this together. Through all this, we're all creating this together right now. So if you feel daunted and overwhelmed, don't worry, because we all feel that way. But we're all also working it out. We are creating a method out of the madness, and that's what we're hopefully trying to share with you right now, and give you the resources to address whatever questions you might have about it. Because basically what we're trying to do is create and design a way to do this while also doing it, while also training all of you to do it, while also learning it ourselves. So there's a lot of learning going on right now, and we're just very receptive and open to all kinds of feedback about how it is for you guys, because that's really at the center of all of this. If it's, if it's not accessible to you guys, then it's not going to work. So it is working, but that's why we're doing this series, is because we really want to hear from you and make it just feel more accessible to everybody.
Aaron, did you want to speak? I can unmute you.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Christos and Scott. Scott, going to what you said about the sound check, the 1 minute sound check, I'm wondering if there's a way to stage a dress rehearsal, just to make sure that the YouTube live stream is working before the actual event.
Yes.
And whether you can do that actually multiple times.
Yes.
Without the YouTube going down and then you having to create a new link. How would one do that?
Absolutely. And that's part of I don't know if you saw the tutorial, but like I said, I'm going to make a new one soon anyway. But when and this is more of like a musician tech thing, but it's totally relevant, is that when you send you sign into OBS, you set all that up, you put the stream key of the YouTube live event that you've created into OBS, so it then sends that stream to the YouTube Live event. You can at any time in YouTube Live sign in, open up that live stream event before it's gone live, where you get the streaming key. There's the little video screen above, right? It's like the monitor of that event. You can stream to OBS as many times to that page as you want, because it's just sending that information from that stream key to that page. So, and you can listen with headphones on to the monitor of that YouTube to sound check what you're hearing. You can do that as many times as you want. You can start and stop that stream. You can do it several days in advance. You can do it an hour before. You can do it a minute before. I recommend people starting the stream of OBS even a half hour before they start performing. So that's just a steady feed going into that preview monitor, so you know it's stable, right? And then when you go live, you just click go live on YouTube rather than clicking go live on OBS, making sure it shows up on YouTube and then clicking live. Like doing that extra prep so you feel really great, and all you got to do is just click it to go. That's really the preferred way to do it.
So nothing will go live on YouTube until you click on YouTube
Exactly.
itself.
The go live button on YouTube. Otherwise, nothing is live.
That is.
And if you want to watch that tutorial video, it's linked in a couple places, but the document that is the Groupmuse live stream concert format, one of the first bullet points there is performer, and the link is there for the tutorial video if you want to.
Amazing. That. Thanks. And Christos, just double checking, this works on stage 10 also?
In stage 10, it's a little different, and that's I think
we can talk maybe.
Yeah, we'll talk about that, because I don't think a lot of people are familiar with stage 10. But
thanks
yeah.
so much, you guys.
Sure.
Well, and let me just quick address what Aaron was talking about. We did a live stream test the day before. Everything was going great, and sometimes things happen. Cameras fuzz out, and I can just say that Christos was, very helpful in like a moment, right? We got a call and everything got worked out. And so even though things are, sometimes a little squirrely, you have support through Groupmuse, so it all works out in the end.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, and yeah, Philip and they really were also. You guys did a great job at. Again, there's a lot of challenges here, right? We're performers, and it's just enough to put together a program, perform in a new medium, play in front of a camera. There's a lot here that we're going through as people, as artists, as a whole. So there is it's a lot going on. So we are here to help as much as we can be, and it's just something that we're all working through together here. But it's really, the potential is incredible, and that's part what we're witnessing here, is that we're really witnessing something incredibly new and unique and interesting, surprisingly meaningful. What can come out of these shared experiences.
We're at the hour already, but we're just delighted that you joined us for our second week, and our colleague Bex will be leading the conversation next week, and we're just delighted for that, and we hope you join us to talk about the social host and the way this role can enliven your Groupmuse, make them more successful, and to make the sort of longer term trajectory of that to be brighter. Yes, so thank you so much for all joining us, and we'll see you this time next week.
Adios, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.